All right, that's my cue. So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our May meeting for the ACSESS Health and Safety Excellence Program Group. And I don't know if there's anybody that's new on the call. If you are, welcome. If you either are new for your organization or new to the program. So there could be some folks, because there's always people moving around and taking over, or the odd new member coming in. So if you are any of those categories, welcome to our it's not monthly, it's kind of bi-monthly or so meetings, where we do a couple of things and updates and go over a couple of items. And so I'm going to get right into it. So basically going to go through a couple of things that are updates, the odd kind of newer thing, and then going to do the topic reviews. We've got a lot of folks kind of in transition now, so I don't have a lot of AERs, so I couldn't pick from the pool of AERs to share. So we're going to do a topic today, and it's going to be the 3 return to work topics that are part of the program. And then we'll conclude with any questions as usual and next meeting date. Right. So, excuse me, get right into it. So similar to last meeting, just a kind of heads up, folks, keep track of your expiry dates. Make sure I get things before your expiry date. Don't wait till the last week and then send me all your 5 topics. Make sure you package your evidence in your Plan, Do, Check, Act packages as appropriate. Whoops, I got somebody who, needs to mute. Okay, done. And then don't forget, when you're submitting, to change draft to ready for review, and also send me an email just in case. That way I know that you've got stuff ready for review, right? So just keep track of that. We're going to talk a little bit in a few moments about the impact of that to small business. Any of you that are in that category as well, very important to keep track so that you meet the deadline dates for that program, which I'll be talking about. Okay. Try to avoid, if you can, uploading one big evidence package that has all the Plan, Do, Check, and Act in it. You know, there's no rule you can't do that, but it's just very complicated to figure out, okay, when I'm looking at it, which of the stuff in your 30 or 40 pages of upload is Plan, which belongs to Do, which is Check, right? And if I can't figure it out, the validator may not be able to figure it out, and then you might get phone calls or additional evidence required in AER just because they couldn't find what they were looking for. So it just helps to split it up. If you do the topic upload in one upload, make sure in that upload you distinguish somehow through some sort of a header or something, that this is the Plan, evidence, the Do, and the Check, so that, again, we can find it easily and it makes sense in relation to your evidence story document. All right. So just a heads up on that. Any questions on that for those of you that are collecting? I mean, this applies throughout the whole thing, because while you're doing your Plan and Do, you're collecting the evidence. So you should already kind of package it under Plan, Do, or Check. So if you have it, if you're doing it that as you're doing the implementation, then by the time you get ready for submission, you just have to kind of convert things to PDFs and all that. But it's all where it needs to be. All right. Questions on that? We're good. All right. So I keep giving you the kind of the updates as what's coming with the changes to these 2 parts of the program, the recognitions of average topic. That's still underway, and the recommendations there are still the same. Do not pick that topic until the new guidelines released. So anyone who is doing topic selection and suggests a topic, I tell them to hold off, because you're not you're going to end up doing 3 topics the way it's packaged now and only get credit for 1. So when they split them up, then it'll be, you can take another look at it and decide which one of the 3 that they're going to split that up into you want to do. So for now, we're kind of holding off on that one. But the control of hazard topic, we know it's coming. We have kind of the draft guidelines, and I can now help and work with you on topic selection using the new guideline in mind, which allows way more flexibility. So we can now pick control of hazard topics as a, under a program. So if you're doing, lockout tagout program, machine guarding program, heat stress program, cold stress program, a hearing conservation program, these are all programs designed to control hazards. So we can select them as the kind of the program title, where under the old version of control of hazard guidelines, we had to describe the hazard, right? You couldn't select the topic as the name of a program, right? A control hazard program. But we can do that now, working at heights program, ergonomics program, all of these things that are designed to address hazards can be now picked under that title, which just kind of makes it a lot easier and a little bit more flexibility in the application of the control of hazard topic. So I can do that now, and I've been doing it with folks who are now doing topic selection with control of hazards. They will be validated under the new guidelines when they're released. So we know that we're allowed to do that because, we've got the drafts, but it's not final, right? So there's still, last I met with the WSIB, still targeting July to finalize these 2 changes. So as soon as I get the new guidelines, as soon as I get anything, you'll be the first to know. All right. Any questions? Very good. So stay tuned on that. So for those of you that are in the small business initiative, though, if you are, you know who you are. So the program as we know it will end, and is still slated to end December 2023. I doubt they're going to change their mind from that, but who knows? You never know. But that's really what's on the books right now. I have no idea what the future version of a small business initiative will look like. They have hinted that they will try to keep some sort of an incentive or initiative for small businesses. What it's going to look like, what kind of financial incentive might be applied to it, have no clue. All right. So it's critical because when I talk about, submissions and all that, your deadline is November for any current small business action plans, because we've got to get everything in there and then have it all validated before the end of the program. So even though, your official expiry date may go past, December 2023, if you want your double rebate, then we got to get your action plan done and submit it by the end of November, right? It doesn't mean that if you miss the December deadline as a small business, you don't get any rebate. You do, you just don't get the double. You get the regular rebate. Okay. So if anything from that changes, you'll be the first to know again. But right now, they said they're going to announce something, within the next month or 2. So hopefully before August, we'll hear on what's going to happen with the small business initiative. All right. So the other thing that some of you may have already seen and noticed, and I talked about this probably 4 or 5 months ago, the heads up that there are 2 interfaces in the portal, and that you won't be switching from the old interface with the 4 tabs to the new interface with the 2 tabs until you finish your old action plan and then renew a new one. So if you have gone through that process since I talked about it first, you'll now be on the new interface. If you are still finishing an old action plan that you started before they introduced the new interface, you have to finish that off. And then when you rejoin, you'll be using the new interface. What's the biggest difference? It's just simply a couple of the screens where you see this one. So the topic selection process that you go through in the screens for that, those have not changed, right? Once that's done, though, typically when you go to your action plan, you would under the old interface, you have 4 tabs, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you will have 2. And one of them you've already completed, because once you get to this screen, it'll mean that your action plan has been approved. So that's your topics approved. You could click on that, and when you open it, you'll see what your topic lists are. And you can change your contact information, but that's pretty well covered in stone because they've already been approved. So you're really going to be working with only one other tab, and that's called the evidence package tab, right? When you click on that, you'll see basically your topics, just like you do now under the evidence upload tab on the old interface. So when you click on one of the topics, so say I click on control of hazards is one of my topics, it'll look like this. And so what they've done, eliminated all the other tabs. And so now in this tab, you have two kind of sections. One is where you upload the evidence story, the PDCA document, and then the evidence that goes with that topic evidence story. So each topic will have a screen like this. You're still allowed 5 uploads. That has not changed. But the evidence story gets uploaded here for that topic. And then you upload the evidence that goes with that topic. So they've kind of combined it here. And then the rest of the process is the same, where you can, submit. This is my screen. So instead of submit for provider, it says submit for validation. Your screen, I think, says submit for provider review or something, right? Or you simply change it from draft to ready for review, right? So that process hasn't changed, but the interface, what it looks like, where the evidence story and the uploads are, right, is where the change is. If you have all your topic evidence stories together in one document, that's perfectly fine. Just upload the same one for every topic, because that topic will be in that document, and they're only going to look at that one. So not a big deal. You don't have to separate each evidence story into one document, right? So it's just a little simpler, little less congested. And then don't forget that you have the user's guide to the portal. So if you are at the upload portion, make sure that you reference the user's guide and follow all the clicks. The user guide currently has both interfaces, the old and the new, in it until everybody kind of is out of the old one. Then they may update the guide and just have the new interface, right? So that's something just to watch out for. So if you're wondering, oh, this doesn't look the same, it's because there is the new interface, which is the 2 tabs only. All right. Any questions on that part of it? All right. Just seeing if there's anybody typing in the chat. I don't hear anybody. So, all right, excellent. So topic and AER reviews. So like we do it, for those of you that might be new, every meeting we either review AERs, which is additional evidence required, which means we've submitted a topic and it came back from validation that they didn't have everything that they expected for that topic. And so what I do is I kind of share that feedback without identifying who the company is, just so that we can learn from the AERs and avoid that and watch out for these things that may apply either to every topic or to that specific topic, so that in case you select it another time or you're doing the same topic. And then the other thing we do is we do the topic reviews, where we take a look at a topic and we walk through the process of how you would address the topic, from the plan, the do, check, and act perspective. And so today I have a list of suggestions that were made in the past. So today, next up in the kind of order of how they were submitted is the review of the return to work topics. And there's actually 3 of them that go together. If anyone has topics they want me to review at our meetings, please send me an email, or once I run out of my list, I'll kind of just randomly pick the topics. So it's good to kind of get a heads up, see what a topic looks like, maybe jot it down, one that you may want to select in the future, that and you have an idea of what's involved in it. So let me just change my screen share so I can all right, start from the beginning. So as with any topic, when you select a topic, or even before, you should have read the members guideline document, which you should all have. And so basically you go through till you get to the topic list, which is here. And you can see there is return to work program requirements, forms, and tools, return to work roles and responsibilities, accommodation, and return to work plans. So some of you may have those split up into 3 policies. Some of you may have all of them in one policy. It doesn't really matter, as long as all the topic requirements for all 3 are there. Which topic you're working on, as long as you can show that the content is there, right? Now, it certainly makes sense, if you need to do all 3 of these, that you do them together, because they really are all part of kind of the claims management return to work program. They just kind of broke it out into kind of three key areas, right? Where the program requirements, forms, and tools outlines basically your policy around return to work, the legal requirements, the roles for return to work, roles and responsibilities in the document, the whole return to work process and how it works. And you should always reference the applicable WSIB policies that apply to the topics. And even, most of you have include them as an appendix to your policy, or they're definitely referenced as well, right? The minimum requirements is what should be in your policy. So this is what we're looking for. It even says you will establish, implement a return to work program that incorporates case management processes, right? And then it goes through the whole list. So your policy should address every bullet. All right. And then including the tools, it should reference all the tools, forms, and tools that are required. And there's the list there. Okay. It includes written procedures for all, how to resolve disputes. So basically, as you go through this, it's like you're really developing the table of contents for your whole return to work program that you're writing. Because it even talks about how you do appeals, right? How you evaluate return to work outcomes, plans, costs, right? So basically covers the gambit of the overall program development. And then even has an evaluation piece. How do you evaluate your program? where as you keep going, the return to work roles and responsibilities focuses on the roles of everybody you see here. All right, so you'll establish a program to maintain roles and responsibilities and training requirements for the team within the return to work program to facilitate return to work. So again, you're writing your policy and it addresses the role of everyone, and certainly as applicable. Like, you may not have every title exactly here, but within your organization, who does what, when, where, and how, and the role of everybody. So that's the minimum topic requirements for roles and responsibilities. And then accommodation and return to work plans. All right. So again, a procedure for the provisions of returning an injured person back to work and the planning to, for identify, how do you identify suitable work, making the, the assessments for abilities, making, and determining the right sort of return to work progression. So that should all be in your policy. And there are WSIB policies that align with these. So those should be referenced. The whole putting together return to work plans, the use of the goals and functional abilities. So all of that is covered here. Those are the requirements for the 3 topics that are the minimum that should be in the submission when you're writing the policy. And then as you're going to implement that policy, you're going to look at the sample evidence stories to give an idea of what would a plan, do, check, act look like for the policy. So you're writing the evidence story, you're executing it. So the first one is kind of the plan for the return to work requirements, forms, and tools. Basically, they didn't have anything, return to work, kind of just some background. And so they created the policies were developed. In this case, again, this is just a sample. They did it with the committee, just to give you an idea. They created the templates. So this is all the procedure stuff, right? The policy development, approval, that's typically what plan is. And then you get into the do or communicate, right? So anyone who needs to know gets trained. And so here, always keep in mind for the temp industry that for every topic, as we say every time, you have to look at it from the perspective, okay, who from the office staff, what's their role? Who needs to know, who needs to be trained? And then on the associates or the placement worker side, what aspect of this topic do they need to know about, right? And make sure both of those are addressed. You have evidence for both. You have narrative in your do for both as the topic applies, right? So you always have to keep that in mind, because if it reads like you only applied the topic to your full-time office staff, then you're gonna get an AER for sure, right? Because they're gonna ask you all bunch of how did you, what about associates? What about the client sites? What about this, right? So you always have to make sure you balance based on the topic, what aspects apply from a training and communication to your office staff who coordinate this, or your placement staff, your placement workers, right? So always got to keep that in mind. All right. If a topic for whatever reason doesn't have training that applies for that topic to associates, examples I would give you, like control of documents, control records, associates or placement workers, they really don't have anything to do with that. You don't train them on that. They're kind of the recipients of the documents they need to fill in to make them records and that. So there really wouldn't be a training component to that for them. So instead of just not putting it in, I usually say it's always a great idea to say, please note for this topic, placement worker training did not apply. It does not apply. So that, we're upfront and clear that, this is your position on why there's no training evidence related to placement workers, right? For this particular topics, there always is going to be something in the orientation about what they do, who they report to, your expectations of cooperation with return to work, so there's going to be something for sure, some sort of a communication awareness related to the topics for associates or placement workers. It's not going to be huge, but there will be stuff. And then the role of the hierarchy within your offices of who does what, when, where, and how related to all of these bullets, right? All of the requirements. So here's an example. They trained everybody. They used a power presentation. Some of you do quizzes to make sure people understood, and how you use the forms. And so with this one also, if you've got ongoing claims, make sure you collect forms that are being filled in and all that, because it'll help to show that you're using the forms and tools, right? Then about 8 weeks, give it at least 2 months or more, always between due and check. You can do the evaluation. And so you can do this one here, interviews with return to work program procedures, with the committee, reviewed the program. There you can do like a topic evaluation to like a little checklist, a little mini audit, yes, no audit kind of thing on all the on the program requirements to evaluate it internally. And then you can submit that as evidence. And then if you found something, right, like what were the findings, right? So, you did the evaluation, no gaps, then you state that under check, right? If there is, then you would write what the gap is. Like here, you see the third bullet, we found that procedures didn't have a dispute resolution process as per topic requirements. So because there was a gap in the results of the check, they have an act. And the act was they created a process and they trained people and they added it maybe to their program, right? So in this case, this example shows that there was an issue identified with the check as the result of the check and an act. Not always will you have that. If everything was fine, then you're not going to have anything under act, right? Just nothing to improve. But under check, you have to say, the results of our check showed there was no gaps. We'll continue to monitor, right? So that it's not leaving the validator to guess or to do an analysis of your check data to make sure that there was nothing in your check data that should have been an act, right? So it's always best just to put it in the narrative of the evidence story. All right. And they even had a recognition. Thank you, because acknowledgement, thank you letter was sent to all employees signed by the owner. All right. So what kind of evidence? Obviously the policy, definitely that would be plan evidence. The training, that would be due evidence. Video employee explaining their role or return to work, that's due evidence. Completed return to work forms and sample return to work plan, that's due evidence. So that's where I said collect any forms or anything that are completed during the implementation if you actually execute return to work plans, because they can be evidence. Just black out any names, phone numbers, addresses, anything like personal information can be blacked out. All we're really showing is, hey, we use the forms and tools that we created. And here's an example of one that's filled in. It's great. You can send under plan the blank ones, but the blank ones doesn't tell them you're implementing the topic, right? So filled in ones shows that they're actually being used, right? And then the September 2020 minutes showing where the topic was reviewed, that would be your check evidence. So the topic review of the topic was done at the Joint Health and Safety Committee level. And then the minutes of that is the evidence. So that's how the review was done by the committee. The evidence is the minutes showing that whatever minutes show the topic was reviewed, any feedback from the committee and so on. So that would be check. That's an example of a check, a way to do check for they did it for this topic. All right. Again, return to work, roles and responsibilities, same thing here. Plan is going to be simply the procedure was created, listed in a matrix format, whatever, defining everyone's role and responsibility as per the topic requirements. Okay. Under do, they did a bunch of stuff. Mainly, you could, how the policy was shared. It was on a safety board, and then where they posted it, where the documents were made available, and then ultimately, you're going to be training people on their roles and responsibilities. So there's going to be somewhere within the do a training component, and then anything you can collect to show that people are doing their responsibilities. So they had an example. Following an injury at work on March 2020, return to work coordinator was able to try out the new defined roles. So they, and sort of kind of laid out, who did what to show that people are doing their roles, right? So you'd say, the placement worker contacted our branch so-and-so, and that they did that. And then, they got the FAF, and then the return, like what you're doing is showing people understood their responsibilities and carried them out. So you're following your return to work. Here they had the meeting, the return to work meeting, and the offer was made. So, people are doing what we're trained to do as far as what their roles are. So again, including the associate part and the office, your full-time office staff, right? And then again, 2 months after, about 8 weeks, you go back and you evaluate how the return to work program is working. Are you doing everything you said? Are you evaluating that people understood the responsibilities, and how did they do it here? They reviewed the completed return to work weekly reports from test incident above, that noticed that several were not completed. So are people following forms? Are they completing their forms properly? Are they reporting on time? So again, you can do the check through a checklist, yes, no kind of thing. Someone can do like an internal mini review. You can involve the committee again. And so here they basically explained how they did it and then what they found. And again, there was a non-conformance, an issue, and they addressed it in ACT. Right, and this is all part of ACT, that they're going to review it every 3 years. So examples of evidence here: the policy, of course, is plan, roles and responsibilities matrix, plan, samples of forms, do. Return to work, safety orientation, follow up with employees. That would be do evidence. Worker testimonial video, that could be check. If you're kind of, do you understand the process, or, did the process work for you? Some sort of an interview or video could be check. If you're doing it to an office staff, it's basically, asking them, do you know your roles and responsibilities? And, they can hopefully reiterate them back. And that would be a way to check as well through interview, right? So that's what this sample shows. Any questions? Just stop me. And then the last one is the accommodation and return to work plans topic. So this one, again, developing the program is the main piece of it. There's some narrative of how they went about it, which you don't have to go on and on about that whole process, but what you developed, what you created, and that's the plan narrative. And then, of course, the training piece. So the beauty of doing these three together, you can do one training session with people, and that covers all three topics. You don't have to do three separate ones, right? So the training evidence would be the same for all three topics. It was the same attendance form, the same, and the presentation, if you have like a couple of PowerPoint slides, they cover all three topics. So it would be the same presentation. So you can, really economize in the amount of hours work required, because you don't have to do three separate training sessions. Okay. Because that's what they basically do here, shared the policies, the requirements, people attended, the training and all that kind of stuff. Who was trained. And then 8 weeks later, you go back and look out your return to work plans have been working. Again, usually find the easiest is some sort of a checklist, like an internal audit of the topic, right? So you create an audit checklist, and you based on your policy requirements, based on the topic requirements in the excellence program guide, you create just a question, yes, no, to make sure that you're auditing that you executed your policy and that you also are meeting all the topic requirements, and that audit tool or the report, the form, is your evidence. But you can do interviews, you can do committee, like you saw in the other example, the committee reviews it at a program, at a meeting. So there's many different ways to do it, as long as you evaluate the whole topic. You audit the whole topic and how it's working based on your policy and the topic requirements. So here again, they identified a gap for mental stress injuries, and then they addressed it. They added more information and more communication on that particular, right? So always show, say what you did and the timeline that it was completed. Usually the evidence would be an action plan showing that the item was addressed, right? So it shows the action item, who it was assigned to, the action taken, the date completed, and that would be the evidence for that. So let's see what kind of sample evidence they did for this one. So the policy, of course, that's plan evidence, sample return to work package. If it's filled in, that becomes due evidence. If it's blank, it's still plan, right? So you have to have completed versions of things to put them into due evidence. Training slides, that's due evidence, and the attendance lists, that's due. Copy of return evaluation audit. So we just talked about how to do the check through an audit, and so that is check evidence. Video testimonial from an accommodated employee, that could also be check evidence. All right, so you're getting feedback from an employee that went through the process. So that's a good way to evaluate the topic, to speak to somebody who went through the whole return to work plan process. All right. That is the 3-in-1. So if you don't have them, fully developed into a policy, you could select the 3 as new. If you have any one of them that needs an overhaul, so any one of those 3, you can select it as a significant gap. So you can redo where there's a huge gaps that you want to fill in, depending on, how old it is and what's missing from if it's not aligned with the new return to work or reintegration policies of WSIB, then, definitely significant gap. So you can pick them, right? So we just have to justify that significant gap. And it doesn't have to be, all 3. It could be one of the three, even though you might have them all in one policy, as long as we can show that there's a gap in that particular topic, then you can pick it as new. So can be redone as significant gap, typically, or as new if you don't have them laid out exactly that way. The topics can be selected. Any questions, comments from those of you? Some of you on the call are experts in this, so anything you want to add? Any advice for other folks that might not be as well versed in those three? Any of you that have already done the topics as a in your previous action plans? I know some of you have, so I just don't know if you're on the call today. Just unmute if you don't mind sharing. I didn't memorize who did what over the years, so you'll know whether you've tackled these as topics in the program since the program started or not. Does it make sense? I don't see anything in the chat. Nobody.
It makes sense, James. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. And I don't see any questions. So you're all experts on those three topics. All right. Any suggested topics or items? I know, people are always asking about topic selection, options, especially control of hazards. So maybe at the next meeting, we can kind of brainstorm what would a control of hazards topics list look like for the temp agencies. So I thought that might be helpful because many of you have got a lot of those 36 topics, fully done. There might not be significant gaps. So most of your topics would be under the control of hazards. Because, again, some of the 36 may not apply or make sense for your industry. So there's no, much point in doing them. I want to be able to kind of do a brainstorm with people, with everybody on what would some control of hazard topics be. Like we talked about quite a few in the past. Like, we've talked about slip, trip, and falls. I think a lot of people did, because of the hybrid work, you did kind of working from home ergonomics, kind of or workstation setup, right? And it covered the office and home. There's forklifts. There's all kinds of, right? Because you do, workers, what kind of a forklift safety guidelines you can implement internally, working at heights, if you're placing workers that do that. So, I thought maybe we could I'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting, kind of working, like a working brainstorm session. So we can try to put together a control of hazards, list that people can go to. Of course, it'll be different based on the type of placements, but if we can come up with something, then you can look at that. And again, even if you have some of these, don't forget, you can always bring them back if there is a significant gap, right? And like a great example that's coming is WMIS. If you haven't heard, got updated, right, by the feds. The province, it seems like the way that the provincial WMIS reg is written, it's not going to need some amendments, as far as I heard, but the training, because they added a classification, they changed something on the labels, I believe, and they're changing some aspects of the safety data sheets that pretty well, once it comes to fruition, you'll have to redo your WMIS training or update it. So that's a significant gap. Your current WMIS program would not meet the current WMIS requirements once the changes come, are kind of official. And there's going to be something from the ministry. Right now, federally, they're already changed, right? It's just each province has to kind of come out and communicate it and decide if there's going to be amendments or not to their each province's WMIS reg. The other change is the name. It's no longer going to be WMIS 2015. They're taking the 2015 out. It's going back to just WMIS. All right. So that's another change that occurred as part of the feds changing the WMIS regulation. So that just goes to show you could have a topic, but because of legislative change, it's now created a significant gap. And so now you can pick it as a topic, right? So that's a pretty good justification, I would say, for a significant gap. If there's any gray area, I can just, I take that back to my program management consultant, say, look, what do you think of this? And sometimes, I'll get, I don't see why that should be a problem. And we can make sure we share that information. So that's kind of the whole look at from a topic selection point of view. And then as always, yes, this program is not forever. There's no S gap, right? We're perpetuated people staying in the safety groups program, what seemed to be like forever. There is no S gap here. So, if you don't want to work on any more topics, you've totally exhausted, you don't have any significant gaps, you have all your hazards under control, that's what this program offers, right? So yeah, it's not designed to be forever. People are the intent would be to, if for companies that are interested, they would graduate it to the management system program accreditation the Ministry of Labor has. It's called the SOCI program. If you wanted your formal accreditation, but that's not for everybody, right? In management systems, and there's some financial reward attached to that, but it's nowhere near what the excellence program offers, right? So ultimately, you may get there at some point, but until we exhaust all the possibilities of topic selection under this program, I don't see why you wouldn't stick around and take advantage of the rebate. So any reviews, please. Any specific topic you want me to look at that's in the topic list. And then if we can, if we generate a control of hazard topic list, we can brainstorm examples of how we would address some control of hazard topics as well together. All right. Any questions on anything to do the program? Any issues?
Not at this time.
Nothing. Everything's going okay. I know I've talked to a bunch of you one-on-one, brainstorming, topic selection. Rebates went out, so a lot of you would have gotten some money. For any of you that closed out plans, and I don't know, let's see, February from February 1st to April 30th, you would have gotten rebates this month. So if you were in that window, you would have gotten your a rebate check. I think they already went out for May. The rebate check issue was May. The next window is plans that close May 1st to July 31st of 2023. Those checks will go out the end of August. So that's the next window, depending on where you are at right now with your closure, right? So if you just closed after April 30th, then you won't get your rebate till the end of August, which is the next rebate cycle issue. All right. And I sent out the rebate schedule. Everybody should have that as well. If you can't find it, send me an email, send it to you again. The 2023 rebate schedule, which is the WSIB sends out. Any questions?
Not for me.
Everybody's good. Everybody's happy. Everybody's trying to enjoy the spring. All right. All right. I'll give you 10 minutes back then, and I will thank everybody for your time. And let's look at next meeting date. I was looking at July, the end of July, and then probably we won't come back till after that, till the end of September, when everybody's back after the fall and from all the holidays and all that good stuff. So I was looking at July 27th,
Sounds good.
1 p.m. We'll send out Jennifer. We'll send out the invites. Also, anybody that's just recently rejoined, please make sure that you verify that payment of your invoice is processed. We're always chasing people because I know sometimes it's not you that's running the program for your organization is paying the bill. But if you can help us make sure that they pay it, because then we're chasing people, right? So, if payment is outstanding, we'll let you know. And then if you can internally verify that it's paid, because sometimes Jennifer doesn't even know who your your accounts payable people are. You do. So please make sure, because technically I'm not supposed to approve topic selection until we confirm your HSEP invoice has been paid, right? It's not your ACSESS membership, it's separate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So please make sure you do that, so saves us extra work chasing you down. All right. All right, folks, if I don't talk to you before that, we'll see you on July 27th at 1 p.m.